My name is Susan, and my FBI faith-building incident is breast cancer. I grew up in small town Kansas, just south of Wichita, a little town called Derby. I lived there until I was in my mid-20s. I went to kindergarten through high school with a lot of the same people. I went to Wichita State University and got a degree in music education. I started teaching in public schools in 1986. 4 years ago, I retired from the education field. I was lucky enough to end my career as a high school principal. I was at a fabulous art school, and it was so much fun working with the kids and the teachers and everything. So my career had always been in education. No kids, a husband, 2 dogs, on and off over the years. So I currently live to the east of Atlanta, Georgia. We moved there in 1990, so I've actually lived in Georgia longer than I lived in Kansas, so I'm not sure if I'm a Southern girl or a Midwesterner girl anymore. We enjoy being in the outdoors. We like to go hiking, riding our bikes, trips to the beach. My husband and I, we found a lot of different commonalities over the years, and those ebb and flow and emerge. So sometimes we're into hiking, sometimes we're into fishing. It just depends. Growing up, my main passions in life were based around music, and my family, while not professional musicians, always had a great passion for music, and my parents encouraged all of us children to pursue at least one instrument. So I started playing the piano when I was in, I think, 2nd grade, and then started playing the cello in 4th grade. And that was my thing. That was my niche in the world, to be in the music world. I was a good cellist. I wasn't a great cellist. I did have to work very hard for the success that I had within the music field. I had a quartet that I did a lot of gigs with. We'd play weddings and funerals and baptisms and all different kinds of events, and that would be called professional. But I played in community orchestras over the years, which was a nice way to share your talent and be a part of a community outside of what you did for teaching during the day. Get to kind of do the music for you instead of the music for others, so to speak. And I always felt my passion was teaching rather than being a performer. When I became principal of the art school, I would often sit in and play with my students. One year, the conductor of the orchestra, I think his father died. It was right before the Christmas concert, so I ended up conducting the Christmas concert, and the kids thought that was great. So when I could, I would go into the music classrooms and insert myself into the situation so that the students would understand that I came from an arts background and appreciated what they were doing. One of our passions from early 2000s was boating, and we had a couple of different boats that we kept on a lake, and that was our getaway. Instead of having a cabin in the mountains, we had a boat on the water, and we would pack up the dogs and go down for the weekend and just sail out into the middle of the lake and get away from it all and just enjoy nature and spending time together. And then sometimes after being on a boat for 3 days, you were then ready to be apart. But it was our getaway and how we enjoyed, our recreational time. Our last boat sank. So that was the end of our boating adventures. Now we'll just go rent one if we want to do boating. We did not sink the boat. The boat sank. Extenuating circumstances, but the boat sank, and we weren't on it, so that was good. Nobody was injured in the sinking of the boat. But we both have a love for the water. Having grown up in landlocked Kansas, anytime I'm at the beach and things like that, I still go, this is great. I love being at the beach. I come from a very large family. There is 7 children in our family, 6 girls and a boy. I'm number 7. of the 7. There's 6 years between number 6 and myself, so she was mad for a long time when I came along because she wasn't the baby anymore. My oldest sister, I lost her during the start of COVID, but she had been sick with leukemia, and we knew that if she got COVID, it probably would not have the best outcome, so that's still hard to deal with because we feel like she was taken too soon. But with all those wonderful brothers and sisters, I have oodles of nieces and nephews that I help raise and babysit, and great nieces and great nieces and nephews, too many to count. So I feel like I have family far and wide. Even though we never had kids ourselves, there were still children that I got to help raise and have an impact. That's still a journey. I'm not sure where my faith lies or where my faith is going. Raised in a Catholic home, Mass every Sunday, all the all the big occasions, of course. Mom took us to church every Sunday. My dad never really participated. I think he grew up Methodist. But my mom came from good German, French Catholic stock, so that's what she instilled in all of us growing up. So, in college, I think you get busy with your college life and grow your independence and things like that. And your faith journeys may take different paths, or as college is a time of growth and learning and being around new people and new ideas. You question and you explore and you think about what faith means to you and what faith looks like, and the different, I think what the different meanings the word faith can have, whether that's in a Christian pathway, or one that follows other deities or no deities, or where you put your, if you think that there is a higher power that has control or gives you strength in your daily life. So I think that for me is kind of the broad term of faith, and the journey in and out of what faith may look like or mean to an individual. I think faith is one, having faith in yourself, which is a belief in yourself, and faith in thinking that you can reflect and meditate and ask whatever is out there to give strength, or if that meditation is about finding that strength in yourself that helps guide you out into the world, or when things happen, how you deal with them. I started doing yoga like 5 or 6 years ago. Yoga can be a very reflective and self-focused practice. It should be, because it's about your breathing and you in connection with your body to the outside world. And I'm not some big yoga guru, namaste person, but it was really kind of eye-opening that in all the years that I was doing for others, I wasn't always doing for me. And when I started doing yoga practice, it was about focusing on me and just having that hour that I was disconnected from everything else. And at the end of the practice, finding peace and finding tranquility. And maybe that's my kind of faith, is just being able to find my inner peace and my place in the world and how that fits in. In reflection, it really, whether some people would call that prayer, meditation, transcendentalism, whatever, it's about and I guess you can connect it as to a type of praying or prayer that you hope to find peace, you hope to find support, you hope to find guidance in prayer. And with just taking that time to be quiet and clearing your mind of everything else, and you're focusing on your breathing and focusing on moving to the next pose or the next stage. And you don't have time to let in all the noise from the outside. And that, for people that are so busy, as we all are, and there's so much noise coming at us all the time, that's why they call it practice. It's a yoga practice. It's because you have to practice doing those things. In 2013, my FBI was breast cancer. I was diagnosed with stage 1, almost less, if there is a stage 1, less than stage 1, breast cancer in my left breast. In November of 2012, I had my annual mammogram, and they said, oh, you need to come back for some more tests. So they did an ultrasound, and then we went into the biopsy stage, and it came back that I had breast cancer. I was very lucky they found it when they did, because it was kind of in a hidden spot behind my left breast that I would not have necessarily felt until it had moved into a bigger stage, a more aggressive stage of cancer. So I was very, very lucky with that. After just dealing with the shock of having I got the big C, I've got cancer, I've got breast cancer. I asked my doctor, I said, if I was your wife, what would you do? Because what would you suggest to her that you do? Because there's, many different options for treatment with lumpectomies, or just doing that, or radical single mastectomy or double mastectomy and things like that. And the doctor said, because of breast tissue conformation, that probably the best option would be a double mastectomy, which would guarantee that I would not get breast cancer again. Even though it was a very, very small spot that they found, if I just did a lumpectomy, it was more than likely that I would develop breast cancer again. So in March of 2013, I had a double mastectomy. So these are new, which is good. I was very fortunate again, once they took out the lymph nodes and things like that, that the cancer had not spread anywhere in my lymphatic system. So I did not have to go through the challenge of chemo and radiation that I know a lot of people have to go through. So I feel because they caught the breast cancer so early, I was very fortunate. If there's a good kind of breast cancer to have, I had it, caught it early, and almost 10 years later, there's been no active cells or anything like that found. So I'm fortunate with that. I think the hardest part, honestly, was after the biopsy, just waiting for the results. And my husband and I, we didn't share with anybody else that I was going through just the biopsy and the testing, because you don't want to create panic. In my view, in my operating philosophy, not to create panic where panic is not needed. So once getting the news, it was on a Friday morning, and I'd actually gone to the doctor by myself, but my husband was on speed dial. So after I talked to the doctor, got the diagnosis, and we knew that we'd be coming back to talk to the doctor, and my husband came with me the second time to work on the game plan. Just after that initial shock, it's like you have to rip the Band-Aid off and say, I have breast cancer. Well, after my diagnosis, I didn't tell anybody for a little while except my immediate family. I didn't tell my staff what I was going through. I wanted to wait till closer on the time, because I didn't want everybody fawning over me and saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" It's just like, it had to be business as usual, because being a principal is not being about you. It's about taking care of the school and the kids and the staff and the parents. What I'm remembering is that I had told my family pretty much within 24 hours. And I think I called my friend Tracy and told her that too early on. And so that gave, just the family, for us, time to talk, and over the 6 to 8 weeks until I had surgery, just kind of to prepare for that. Because it wasn't something that I didn't have a large tumor or a large, at the time, we didn't know if it was in the lymph nodes or anything. We had time to prepare for surgery. It's not like I had to go in the next day to do things. So I was fortunate that I had that time to kind of prepare and get myself ready for a major operation. There was lots of doctor's visits, pre-op visits, going to a plastic surgeon to decide what the options were. Because when they do a double mastectomy, and generally they go ahead and take out all the breast tissue, and then they start the reconstruction process at the same time. Major piece of work that they have to do at the time. It's long surgery. So talking with the plastic surgeon about everything that needed to happen before the surgery and after the surgery, and kind of knowing more what to expect with that. So that 6 to 8 weeks before surgery was still a very busy time, just medically taking care of things. So that's the pre-op information. So in late March, I had my double mastectomy. I was very fortunate that I had 2 sisters that were available at the time to kind of come and take shifts to help take care of me. One of my sisters was there during the time that I had the operation, so she actually stayed in the hospital overnight with me so my husband could go home and rest and have a little peace afterwards. I was surprised that they said, "Well, you may, after your operation, you might go home that evening." I'm like, I had just had 6 hours surgery and they're gonna send me home, but that did not happen. It was the next day, fortunately, that they keep you in at least overnight. It's not simple outpatient surgery. So I was in the hospital, I think, for just a day, and everything was fine at that time. Anybody that goes through major surgery, stay on top of your pain medication. Don't let the pain get to you. That will make you say things that you shouldn't say to people. Just follow doctor's orders, as they say. One of my sisters stayed with me for 5 or 6 days, and then another one came, and then my husband could go back to work and kind of get a little bit of normalcy in his life. So that was kind of the 2 weeks post-op. I have to say that during this time, my husband was super fabulous. Once the girl support left, he was still there to help me change out my drain tubes and make sure I took a bath and not a shower, because you can't get the incisions dirty or wet, and just had to be my nurse. But by the time the sisters left, I was a little bit more independent and could take care of myself a little bit more. And then he didn't have to be quite so hands-on with my healing. For those of you that don't know how reconstruction works, generally after a mastectomy, is they put these little bags in your chest called expander bags, and they stitch up your skin over it. And every week you go to the doctor and they put more saline in your bags, and it expands the skin. So it hurts really bad for about 6 hours, but your skin is actually expanding and making space for permanent implants to come in later. So that was all going well and good, and then I started getting infections on the right side, which is not unusual for people who've had double mastectomies to have serious cellulitis or They would never call it a staph infection, but I think that's what I ended up having. So I had, actually on my right side of my chest, I had 4 separate surgeries to take implants in and out. At one point, they took the implant completely out to allow the tissue to heal and the cellulitis, which is an infection under the skin, to heal and just kind of give my body a rest for a while. And then we started all over with the expansion process again, it was discouraging because I really thought in 8 weeks I was going to have my permanent implants and everything, but it took over a year. It took about 15 months before I could have my final implants put in and just be done with surgeries. The infections are, you think you're making progress, and then despite your very best efforts, something will happen and your body just says, no, this isn't working, and it signals you through infections or whatever that something is wrong, and then the doctors have to hop on board with that. So by I think June of 2014, I had my final surgery for the breast implant. In July, I actually got to have nipple reconstruction, because when they did my mastectomy, they took the nipples as well. In some surgeries, in some instances where they can save the nipple and reconstruct around it, but the doctor did his magic and made little nipples for me out of the skin, and then later on I even got tattoos. So when I get the questionnaire, have you ever, I say yes, I have tattoos for medical reasons, but that's all I'm saying right now. The interesting thing is while I was going through this journey, my husband was going through it with me. It wasn't just me that had breast cancer, and I think you'll find that in most relationships, when one partner is sick, it's really both partners that get sick because they love you and are carrying the weight of that as well. My husband actually gained quite a bit of weight while I was sick. It was stress eating for him, and he's a relatively thin person, and he just got a nice little round tummy on him, and we were trying to figure out what we could do to start moving forward and getting healthy after my surgery, for both of us, not just for me, but for him. So we started going to a local park in the Atlanta area, and he started running again. In between surgeries, I could start walking, things like that, to start getting my strength and health back. And when I couldn't walk, if I'd had a surgery or a procedure, I would just take my chair and a book, and I would go sit in the park while he ran and just wait for him to come back. So he had his time, and then I had my time out in the fresh air. So as that fitness journey continued to get us both healthy again, and he lost the weight like that, which really makes me mad because he's always been able to do that. He was back to his little... I found some other exercise programs that really helped me build my strength and endurance back. I was a Zumba queen. I fell in love with Zumba and started doing that, as the exercises really helped me with my upper body, getting my upper body strength and rebuilding under the chest muscles and things that they had manipulated during my surgery. The fitness studio that I was going to started having yoga classes, and I like to try different type of classes so I didn't get stale with my workouts. And I thought I was the bomb.com because I could do a full Zumba class. I was so excited when I could finally do one without passing out. So that's what got me into yoga. And all during this time, I was still principal of a very successful school. I was still trying to take care of students, parents, teachers, husband, household, things like that. But once even I just started doing the exercise again, I learned to take time. That was my time. So I was excited to try some different forms of exercise, and people don't always think of yoga as an exercise. It can be a muscle building activity. I think the thing that ended up attracting me most to it was when we go to Shavasana, which is the final pose of yoga. And that's where you lay down on your mat and the teacher guides you to breathe, to release, and just empty your mind of everything and just allow whatever to come in to come in. You may have emotions that come up during the time. I mean, several times I could remember being in Shavasana and I would start crying like I am now. And you don't know why, but it feels good. It's a release. And found that as a very powerful thing for me, just to be quiet and to be still. Like breathing is everything. Once I learned about that, and I would start incorporating that into other aspects of my life. It's like I've just got to breathe through this situation and find those quiet moments to reflect. What did I do? What the situation was? And then come back to it. In a weird way, if I hadn't had breast cancer, would I have ever found that way to breathe and release and find that time for me? Or would I have just kept going at 180 miles an hour, turn the lights off one day and be gone? It helped me gain a different perspective on life, about what's important in a person's life, what your priorities are. One of those was just getting healthy again. With breast cancer, there's so many different forms and variations of it, and everybody has their own journey that they go through with it. Other women or men have a double mastectomy and no issues, no concerns. They're back out running marathons, in 12 weeks. Or people that find out their diagnosis is spread to other parts of the body before it's too late to have effective forms of treatment. When they do the biopsy on the lymph nodes, you may have just had a lumpectomy, but it's gone into your lymphatic system and you have to go with chemo and radiation. Any diagnosis and any treatment of a disease, there's no one path that's going to be the same for everybody. Your end goal is the same, but everybody's got to do different pit stops in there and take different things happen at different times. And you just have to address those and deal with them one at a time. One of the reasons that I decided to go ahead with the double mastectomy and not maybe take a less invasive treatment action is this was actually the second time I'd been through having a biopsy. The prior year, I'd had my mammogram and they saw something and went in and had a biopsy. And that one came out negative. There was no signs of cancer at the time when they did that biopsy. So when it happened again the second time and it was a positive diagnosis, I just didn't want to have to keep going back and having that looming over my head, that every time they found something, there would have been a very good chance that the breast cancer would come back. The doctor, said that it's likely that it would reoccur, whether in the same breast or in the other one. So I felt like that was the best course of action. I'm a very cut and dry type of person, that I make the decisions quickly based on the information my doctor has given me. I trusted my doctor, and I felt that when he told me this is what he would suggest for his wife to do, is to have a double mastectomy, I felt that was the way to go. I didn't feel like he was a doctor that just wanted to go in and slice and dice me and get a bigger insurance check or whatever. That he had my best welfare in mind and wanted me to have a productive and healthy life afterwards. I didn't go through, once I got my diagnosis, and go on the internet and research everything bad that can happen once you've gotten breast cancer, or the bad things that can happen after a double mastectomy, because I already had that information from my doctor. I didn't need to fill my mind with the worst case scenarios. I wanted the procedure done. I wanted to have a good outcome because we didn't know if it would be in the lymph nodes until they do those biopsies at the time of surgery. And then we deal with it when that happened. I couldn't sit there and think about all the bad things that would happen. What I think really my thought process was, with the double mastectomy, I was taking the risk away. And that is just something I wouldn't ever have to worry about again, is having breast cancer. I felt very confident in my decision from day one. And when I talked with my husband about the options, if we could do this and do that, it was like he wanted me around for as long as possible. So he said the decision was mine, which way I wanted to go with it. But I just felt like it was the best for me. It was the best for me. I relied on my doctor to give me the best information. Because you can get on the internet and find all kinds of scary things, and it's not healthy. It doesn't put you in a healthy frame of mind going into a surgery. Before I left school to have my surgery, my students and teachers met me at this place in Georgia called Stone Mountain. And that's what it is a big stone mountain. And we climbed Stone Mountain together. It's like 1.5 miles up the side of this granite hunk of rock in Georgia. And it's a celebration of strength and resiliency. And to have these little people with me, 16, 17, 18 years old, that wanted to show me that I could do anything, and that to be courageous and be fearless. For them to do that with me and for me was one of the most touching moments that I've ever had in my life. So once Michael and I started exercising and walking and running, we would go to Stone Mountain, and my goal was to get to the top of the mountain again. So when we were finally able to do that, first time I made it maybe like 1/4 mile up and then had to come back down, and I would wait for Michael at the bottom. He would run up the mountain and then run back down. And so each time when I was ready to attempt that, I could just go a little bit further. I got halfway up and then almost to the top, but not quite, and then finally made it over the top. And that was just, it was such a sense of fulfillment and perseverance. And it's like, if I can do that, I can do anything. So we kept doing that, and it was great. This was like our Sunday morning routine. We'd fix our smoothies, go to Stone Mountain, we'd climb it, and then maybe Michael would run some more and I'd walk a little bit more. So it was about building endurance, and for me, just pushing myself to do a little bit more each time and feel really great when I could. If I couldn't go further that time, I was like, okay, the next time, maybe I can go another 1/4 mile. We just appreciated having that time to spend together and celebrating me getting stronger and probably the strongest and in the best shape of my life. So again, if I hadn't had a breast cancer, would I have turned into a couch potato for the rest of my life? And if you accept those challenges when you're going through it and you set goals for yourself afterwards, are you going to be better than you were before? Are there things in your life that you can change that will have a better outcome for you for the rest of your life and build new habits and new passions and things like that? Or do you want to just keep doing things the same way that you did before? And I think that's where, when I talk about that, my priorities changed. I'd always been giving so much to others that I started taking that time for me. And that became very important and very protective. I became very protective of that time. The house can get cleaned sometime else, but this is a perfect day for us to go on a hike. Reinventing my body and using my body in different ways was pretty cool. It really opened up some new doors and way to enjoy life. If you are going through a breast cancer journey or know somebody that is going through a breast cancer journey, I think what I would want to share is it's going to be okay. That was one of my philosophies, that whatever it is, it's going to be okay. That your challenges that are put in front of you, you will get through them. You may have more roadblocks than the last person you talked to that has gone through breast cancer. You may recover from your surgeries and your treatments and everything faster than somebody else. None of it's pretty. None of it's fun. But I think you have to believe it will be okay. And if that is your mindset on having a positive outcome, that can really make a huge difference. That's where you stay away from the negatives, the what ifs. Don't go into what if land. What if this happens? What if that happens? You just have to deal with what is and not spend your time dealing with the what ifs. And it'll be okay. Whatever it is, it'll be okay. When you're going through something like this, any challenging time in your life, whether it's a medical issue or a grieving process and things, people always say, what can I do for you? And sometimes you don't know what you need. You really don't. Like, do I need somebody to just come over and sit with me? Do I need somebody to come cut my toenails or something like that? Sometimes the unexpected things come up. One of my sisters would help bathe me, and she would spend extra time rubbing my back, and that just felt so good. And I would just say, just do that some more, because that feels so good. I think the challenge for me personally is letting people in to do for me, because I felt very self-sufficient, and that needing people to do things for me was a sign of weakness. Most strong women are like that. It's like, I can do this. I really don't need anybody's help after the kind of initial phase of things. When you're in post-operative care, it is more than just changing bandages or doctor visits and things like that. It really can be little things. So anybody going through this journey right now, or knowing somebody that's going through this journey, when they say, I don't need anything, that's probably a lie. The person probably doesn't know what they need, and it could be as simple as a card in the mail, or the phone call, or saying, can I come over and wash your back, or help me wash my hair, those things like that. It's hard to say sometimes what you need, and that's okay too. But also accept the help when it's offered. And that's probably something, it is something that I didn't do, and I don't think it had like detrimental health effects, but just the emotional thing that you're going through. Again, you don't sometimes really know what you need, and that unexpected thing can pop up and help heal you from the inside, where you may not know that you had a wound that needed to be healed. So when your best friend says, can I come over and stay with you for 3 days? Say yes. Let them come, even though you're self-sufficient, you can cook your meals or whatever. Let people in. And if they offer something that you really don't want, like if you've got enough casseroles and things like that, just say, don't need any more food, thank you. Just come sit with me for an hour. Let your guard down and let people in, because they do want to help. They wouldn't ask if they didn't want to help. And it's very easy to put yourself in a cocoon and just rely on yourself and not open yourself up and be vulnerable. Since my faith is, again, encompassing the broader term of faith, of believing in a future and believing there's an end to the mean, that there is more to life than just, what do I want to say, the material things that are around you. I think for me, sharing a faith is, one, letting people believe how they want to believe, and not saying that the way that people express their faith or practice their faith one way is better than another. I'm kind of like, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. Can we learn from each other on that? If your faith is a very Christian-based faith, or you have a Judaism-based faith, what are the commonalities between those, or other religions? And in sharing faith, I believe it's about having hope and seeing the goodness in people and promoting the goodness in the world, which we all have a hard time finding sometimes, and looking for the positives that are there. I don't go out and proselytize and that we're going to find love and peace and prosperity and all of that everywhere. It's about, I guess, my example of just how I want to view the world and try to find the positive where it is, and try to be pragmatic about it, and not pin everything on an how do I want to say it, let me say this. For most people, when you hear the word faith, I think you think religion and think about an organized religion. And I don't necessarily think that there's one way to find faith, or to find goodness, or to find a power within you or beyond you that guides people in the world.
So do you believe in God? Do you believe there is a God?
I don't know.
If you died tonight, are you 100% sure you'd go to heaven and be with God?
Whatever that looks like, I'm not sure.
Do you think you're a good person?
Yes.
Okay. Let me back up here just a second. Because I believe in the Bible. And in the Bible, it says that every man knows God exists. And that's in your conscience. That's how he made you. That's how he made each of us. And that if we don't acknowledge him as the one true God, that we're suppressing the truth. And that's like having a beach ball that you're putting underwater.
Mm-hmm.
It's there, and you can push it underwater. You can keep it down, but it's natural for it to come up and to be seen. So I'm just going to assume that God exists, that you're suppressing that, and that's okay for right now, for your journey. Mm-hmm. But how many lies have you told in your life?
Countless.
Okay, so what do you call someone who tells countless lies?
A liar.
So what are you?
A liar.
Okay, have you ever stolen anything, no matter how small the value?
Yes.
Okay, what do you call someone who steals?
A thief.
So what are you?
A thief.
Okay. Have you ever taken God's name in vain, said OMG, or used it in an unholy way?
That particular phrase, yes.
Okay. And that's called blasphemy. It was so serious in the Old Testament, it was punishable by death. And would you ever use your mother's name as a swear word?
Well, it just depends on the situation.
Most people wouldn't,
Right.
because they love their mothers and they
Mhm.
respect their mothers.
Mhm.
But yet we use God's name, and especially in this culture in the US,
Mhm.
as a cuss word. And he's the one that gave us mothers and gave us our own lives. So the last one that we'll talk about today is, have you ever looked with lust?
Yes.
Okay. And in the Bible, Jesus actually says that if you look with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. So these are just a few of the 10 commandments is what we
Mhm.
looked at. And that's God's moral law. And God requires perfection. So when you stand before him, whether you believe it or not, when you stand before him on Judgment Day, are you innocent or guilty?
Based on that criteria, I would be guilty.
Heaven or hell?
If there is one or the other,
There is.
if there is, I guess I'm headed to hell.
Does that concern you?
Not really,
It doesn't concern you that you'll be for eternity in a place of weeping and gnashing of teeth?
because I don't know that I believe that exists.
Okay, well, let's put it this way. You're guilty. You said
Mhm.
that. Let's put you in a court of law. A judge is before you,
Mhm.
and he says you're guilty. And I sentence you to the electric chair. And you say, I don't believe in the electric chair. And he says, I don't care if you believe in it or not. You're going to the electric chair. So that's what God's prison is hell.
Mhm.
And it is a real place. Heaven is a real place. God is a real God. You know, he created everything. And you are in the education. That's been your life.
Mhm.
You know what DNA is, right? So that's the book of life.
Mhm.
Well, every tree, every flower, every animal, every creature has DNA.
Right.
That's the book of life. That can't come from nothing. It has to be from a creator, and that's God. So it's very much like if you're in an airplane at 10,000 feet and you have to jump, and I say, hey, Susan, here's a parachute. How about putting on the parachute? And you go, no, I got this. I don't believe in gravity, and I'm just going to flap my arms and make it to the ground. And I'm saying, you are going to die, and I love you. Please put on the parachute.
Mhm.
And in the Bible, it talks about putting on the Lord Jesus Christ. And that is repenting and trusting in him as a savior. And he came to earth and died on a cross. A lot of people know he did that, and they don't understand that we broke God's law. All of us. Me too. I'm not judging you. I broke it. I deserve to be punished. But Jesus came and he died on the cross. He paid the fine for me so that I don't have to do that. And I can go to heaven and be with God. So I'm going to be praying for you.
Okay.
And I hope everyone who sees this video pray for you. And I have some stuff to give you after our video. But I love you and I want you in heaven. And I want to see you. In the Bible, Lazarus says, could you just ask if he could put his finger and touch my tongue with water to cool it, because he's burning. And I don't want to see my friend that I love and adore in that place.
I just hope from the information that I've shared can help someone who's gone through a situation similar to mine. Whatever works for you to help get you through tough times, that is safe and healthy, do it. Be prepared to face challenges that you've never faced before, and it'll be okay.